There is someone thinking about you right now in a way that goes far beyond attraction. It is not obsession. It is not fantasy. It is something deeper, quieter, and far more powerful. They are in love with you not because you chased them, not because you impressed them, not because you tried to win them, but because of something you did without even realizing it. You were real. In a world where people perform versions of themselves just to be accepted, you stood in your truth. You did not beg for validation. You did not shrink to fit their comfort. You did not exaggerate your value. You simply embodied it. And that kind of authenticity awakens something ancient in the human soul. It feels rare. It feels safe. It feels like home. You listened when others only waited for their turn to speak. You paid attention to the spaces between words. You noticed the subtle changes in tone, the hidden sadness behind the forced smile, the dreams they were afraid to say out loud. You saw them, not the mask, not the persona, but the person. And when someone feels seen at that depth, something irreversible happens. Their heart attaches to the one who made them feel visible. You did not try to control them. You did not demand constant reassurance. You did not rush the connection. Instead, you allowed space. And space is where love breathes. Most people suffocate love with urgency, fear, and pressure. You offered patience, and patience creates emotional safety. Emotional safety creates bonding. Bonding creates devotion. There was a moment, maybe small to you, that changed everything for them. A word of encouragement when they doubted themselves. A calm response when they expected anger. A boundary delivered with dignity instead of aggression. In that moment, they realize you are different. You do not react from wounds. You respond from awareness. And awareness is magnetic. You chose growth over drama. You chose self-respect over emotional chaos. You walked away when you could have clung. You remained calm when you could have exploded. That stability did not go unnoticed. It planted a seed in their subconscious. They began to associate you with peace. And the human heart is addicted to peace when it finally experiences it. Here is what you must understand. People do not fall deeply in love with perfection. They fall in love with emotional impact. You impacted them. You made them feel secure without promises. You inspired them without preaching. You challenged them without shaming. That combination is rare. But here is the warning. If you do not recognize your value, you may unintentionally sabotage what you have awakened. When you forget your worth, you start overgiving. When you feel lost, you begin to overpursue. When you doubt yourself, you disturb the very energy that created attraction in the first place. The same grounded presence that made them fall for you must be protected. Love grows where there is mystery, strength, and self-containment. If you abandon your center, the dynamic shifts. Not because they stop loving you, but because energy changes when insecurity replaces authenticity. Someone is crazy in love with you because you chose depth over performance. Because you offered understanding instead of judgment. Because you radiated stability in a world addicted to chaos. Because you did not need them to complete you. And that is the paradox. The less you needed them, the more they felt drawn to you. The more whole you became, the more they felt safe attaching to you. The more you respected yourself, the more they respected you. Do not lose that. Before it is too late, remember who you were when this connection began. Remember your calm. Remember your boundaries. Remember your self-trust. That is what they fell in love with. Not a version of you trying to secure them. But the version of you secure within yourself. Protect that energy, and you want to just keep their love. You will deepen it. Authenticity creates deep attraction because it touches something primal and unguarded in the human psyche. In a world where most interactions are filtered, curated, and strategically designed to impress, authenticity feels almost shocking. It disrupts expectation. When you speak honestly instead of saying what sounds good, when you express emotions without dramatizing them, when you admit flaws without turning them into self-pity, you send a subtle but powerful message. You are not performing. And performance may attract attention, but it is authenticity that captures the soul. People are exhausted by masks. They are tired of decoding mixed signals, inflated egos, and artificial confidence. When they encounter someone who is internally aligned, whose words match their actions, whose emotions match their expressions, it creates psychological safety. The nervous system relaxes around authenticity. There is no hidden agenda to detect, no manipulation to anticipate. This sense of relief is often mistaken for chemistry, but it is deeper than that. It is the recognition of truth. Authenticity also creates polarity because it demonstrates self-acceptance. When you are comfortable with who you are, you stop chasing approval. You no longer adjust your personality to avoid rejection. Ironically, this willingness to risk disapproval increases respect. Attraction intensifies when someone senses that you are not bending to secure their validation. It communicates strength without aggression and confidence without arrogance. That kind of grounded presence is rare, and rarity increases perceived value. There is also an emotional mirroring effect. When you are authentic, you subconsciously invite others to lower their guard. Vulnerability, when expressed without neediness, gives permission. It signals that depth is welcome here. Many connections remain superficial because neither person wants to be the first to remove the mask. Authenticity breaks that stalemate. It becomes a silent challenge. Meet me here, or stay behind your walls. Those who are ready for depth will step forward. Those who are not will withdraw. Either outcome protects your energy. Deep attraction is not built on perfection. It is built on resonance. When you reveal your genuine interests, fears, values, and contradictions, you allow someone to resonate with something real rather than projecting their fantasy onto you. Attraction rooted in fantasy is unstable because it collapses when reality appears. Attraction rooted in authenticity strengthens over time because reality confirms it instead of destroying it. Authenticity also eliminates emotional confusion. Mixed signals often come from internal fragmentation, saying one thing while feeling another. When you operate from alignment, your consistency becomes magnetic. Predictability in emotional character, not routine behavior, creates security. Security fosters attachment. Attachment deepens attraction. This is not about being predictable in excitement. It is about being predictable in integrity. Most importantly, authenticity communicates self-trust. When you honor your boundaries, express your standards calmly, and refuse to dilute yourself to be liked, you demonstrate that you value your inner world. Humans are instinctively drawn to those who value themselves. It signals stability. It signals maturity. It signals that entering your life is a privilege, not a rescue mission. In the end, authenticity does not chase. It does not manipulate. It does not seduce through illusion. It simply stands in its truth. And truth has gravity. It pulls in those who are aligned and repels those who are not. That gravitational pull is what people experience as deep, undeniable attraction. Emotional safety builds devotion because the human heart does not attach deeply where it feels threatened. It may feel excitement in uncertainty. It may feel passion in chaos. But devotion, the kind that stays, invests, and protects, only grows where the nervous system can rest. Emotional safety is not about constant agreement or the absence of conflict. It is about knowing that even in disagreement, respect will not disappear. It is about trusting that vulnerability will not be used as a weapon later. When someone feels emotionally safe with you, they begin to reveal layers they do not show to the world. Not because you forced openness, but because your presence made it possible. Your calm responses teach their body that honesty will not be punished. Your consistency teaches their mind that your affection is not conditional. Your boundaries teach their subconscious that you are stable. Stability is deeply attractive because it removes survival anxiety from love. Most people operate in subtle defense mode within relationships. They measure their words. They conceal their insecurities. They test reactions before fully expressing themselves. This constant self-monitoring drains emotional energy. When they encounter someone who does not overreact, who does not mock weakness, who does not withdraw affection as a form of control, that defense system begins to deactivate. And when defense is lower, attachment strengthens. Devotion is not created by intensity. It is created by reliability. If someone knows that you will respond thoughtfully rather than impulsively, they begin to anchor themselves emotionally to you. If they can share a fear without being dismissed, they associate you with relief. If they can make a mistake without fearing humiliation, they associate you with acceptance. Over time, this association becomes powerful. You are no longer just a romantic interest. You become a safe emotional home. Emotional safety also creates room for growth. When people feel judged, they hide their flaws. When they feel safe, they confront them. A partner who offers patient understanding instead of harsh criticism becomes a mirror that encourages evolution. Devotion deepens toward the person who supports growth without shaming imperfection. That balance accountability with compassion builds trust at a profound level. There is also a quiet strength in emotional safety. It is not dramatic. It does not demand attention. It does not create addictive highs and lows. Instead, it builds a steady bond that feels secure. And security allows love to mature. Without safety, love remains reactive. With safety, it becomes intentional. Many mistake unpredictability for passion. But unpredictability keeps people anxious. Anxiety can create attachment, but it is fragile and often rooted in fear of loss. Devotion is different. Devotion says, I choose you, not I am afraid to lose you. That choice emerges when someone feels secure enough to invest fully without bracing for emotional harm. When you consistently create space for honest conversation, when you regulate your emotions instead of projecting them, when you reassure through actions rather than empty promises, you communicate that connection with you is not a battlefield, it is a partnership. And partnerships built on emotional safety become resilient. They withstand misunderstanding because the foundation is trust, not ego. In the end, emotional safety is the invisible architecture of lasting love. It is the environment where vulnerability transforms into loyalty, where trust transforms into commitment, and where affection transforms into devotion. Being seen is transformational because most people move through life feeling partially invisible. They are acknowledged for their roles, admired for their strengths, criticized for their flaws, but rarely understood in their entirety. To be truly seen is not simply to be looked at, it is to be recognized beneath the surface performance. It is when someone perceives your fears without you having to dramatize them, understands your silence without demanding explanation, and notices your effort even when you pretend it costs you nothing. That kind of perception touches something deeply human. When a person feels seen, shame begins to dissolve. Many insecurities survive because they remain hidden. They grow in secrecy and self-judgment. But when someone gently acknowledges those hidden parts without ridicule or rejection, the internal narrative shifts. What was once a source of embarrassment becomes a shared truth. The weight lessens. The individual no longer feels alone in their inner world. This relief can feel almost spiritual because isolation is one of the deepest psychological pains. Being seen also validates existence at a profound level. Humans crave significance, not in a grandiose sense, but in a relational one. To know that someone notices your patterns, remembers your stories, and understands your emotional triggers creates a sense of mattering. It communicates, you are not background noise in my life. That recognition strengthens identity. When another person accurately reflects who you are, it sharpens your own self-awareness. You begin to see yourself more clearly through their perception. There is also a powerful bonding effect in being seen. When someone pays attention beyond the obvious, it signals investment. Surface attraction can be given to anyone. Deep attention is selective. It requires curiosity and emotional intelligence. When a person senses that you are studying their inner world rather than just enjoying their external traits, they feel valued in a way that cannot be replicated by flattery. Compliments excite the ego, but understanding nourishes the soul. Transformation occurs because being seen encourages authenticity. When you realize that someone accepts your complexities, you no longer feel pressure to simplify yourself. You stop editing your personality to fit expectation. You become more honest, more expressive, more integrated. The relationship becomes a space where growth is possible because pretense is unnecessary. And without pretense, real change can happen. Being seen also exposes blind spots in a gentle way. A perceptive partner may notice strengths you underestimate or defense mechanisms you do not recognize. When these observations are delivered with care rather than criticism, they become catalysts for evolution. You feel supported, not attacked. This balance between insight and compassion fosters development without triggering defensiveness. At its core, being seen fulfills a fundamental emotional need to be known and still chosen. When someone understands your contradictions, your history, your vulnerabilities, and remains present, it rewrites old fears of abandonment. It challenges the belief that love requires perfection. Instead, it demonstrates that love can coexist with imperfection. This experience reshapes how a person relates not only to you, but to themselves. They begin to approach their own inner world with less judgment and more curiosity. The external validation of being deeply understood becomes internal permission to accept themselves. That shift is why being seen is not merely comforting, it is transformational. Self-respect is magnetic because it communicates value without words. It is not loud, it does not demand attention, and it does not chase validation. Instead, it radiates through behavior, tone, boundaries, and choices. When someone carries themselves with quiet dignity, others instinctively respond. There is something compelling about a person who knows their worth and does not negotiate it for temporary approval. Attraction often begins with curiosity, but it deepens with respect. When you respect yourself, you teach others how to treat you. You do not tolerate inconsistency disguised as charm. You do not excuse repeated disrespect in the name of chemistry. You do not overextend yourself to maintain someone else's interest. This steady alignment between your standards and your actions creates psychological weight. People sense that access to you is earned, not assumed. Self-respect also removes desperation from connection. Desperation repels because it signals fear of loss before anything has even been established. But when you are internally secure, your presence feels balanced. You are open but not dependent, interested but not consumed, engaged but not attached to outcome. That emotional neutrality creates intrigue. It suggests that your life is already full and that anyone entering it must add to it rather than complete it. There is strength in restraint. When you resist the urge to over-explain yourself, to overgive, or to overchase, you demonstrate emotional discipline. Discipline is attractive because it reflects self-mastery. Many people are ruled by impulse, texting when anxious, arguing when triggered, clinging when uncertain. When you respond instead of react, you distinguish yourself. You show that your emotions do not control you. That stability feels safe and rare. Self-respect is also expressed through boundaries. Boundaries are not walls meant to push people away. They are guidelines that protect your peace. When you calmly communicate what is acceptable and what is not, you create clarity. Clarity reduces confusion. And clarity strengthens attraction because it eliminates mixed signals. People may test limits unconsciously, but they are drawn to those who enforce them with composure rather than hostility. Another magnetic quality of self-respect is non-competition. When you respect yourself, you do not feel threatened by others. You do not need to prove superiority. You understand that your uniqueness is not diminished by someone else's strengths. This quiet confidence shifts the dynamic. Instead of seeking to outshine, you simply shine. Instead of comparing, you remain grounded in your own lane. That centered energy draws people who are tired of ego-driven interactions. Self-respect also changes how you handle rejection. You may feel disappointment, but you do not internalize it as proof of inadequacy. You recognize that not every connection is aligned. This mindset preserves your emotional equilibrium. It shows resilience, and resilience commands admiration. When someone sees that your identity remains intact, regardless of external approval, they perceive depth. Ultimately, self-respect is magnetic because it reflects inner harmony. It tells the world that you value your time, your energy, your emotions, and your presence. It suggests that being chosen by you is meaningful because you do not choose lightly. And when attraction is rooted in respect rather than insecurity, it evolves into something lasting. Energy must be maintained because attraction is not a single event, it is an atmosphere. It is something that is felt before it is defined, sensed before it is spoken. When a connection begins, there is usually a certain presence you embody without trying. You are relaxed, you are centered, you are living your life fully, not orbiting around the possibility of someone else. That energy is what created the pull. But once emotions deepen, many people unconsciously shift. They abandon the very state that made them magnetic in the first place. When you first connected, you were not trying to secure the outcome. You were simply expressing yourself. You had boundaries. You had standards. You had focus. You responded when you wanted to, not from anxiety, but from intention. There was space in your life, and that space allowed anticipation to grow. Attraction thrives in that balance between closeness and individuality. The moment you collapse your world into the connection, that balance weakens. Maintaining energy means maintaining self-containment. It means remembering that your emotional stability cannot depend entirely on another person. As mood, attention, or availability, when your inner world remains grounded, you interact from strength rather than fear. Fear changes energy quickly. It makes you overanalyze small delays. It makes you read into neutral situations. It makes you seek reassurance instead of offering calm. And even if the other person cannot explain it logically, they will feel the shift. Energy is communicated through subtle cues, tone of voice, response timing, posture, eye contact, emotional pacing. When you are secure, these signals are natural and steady. When insecurity enters, they become erratic. You may become overly eager or unexpectedly distant. You may test them unconsciously. You may give more than is balanced. This creates tension where there was once ease. To maintain energy is not to become cold or detached. It is to remain aligned. with who you are at your strongest point. Continue investing in your personal growth. Continue nurturing friendships, passions, and goals. Continue valuing your solitude. When your identity expands beyond the relationship, your presence retains depth. You are not clinging to the connection for meaning because you already have meaning. Consistency is also part of maintained energy. Emotional highs followed by dramatic lows create instability. While intensity can feel exciting, long-term attraction deepens in steadiness. When your reactions are measured and your affection is sincere but not overwhelming, you create a rhythm that feels sustainable. Sustainability builds trust. Another aspect of maintaining energy is managing expectations. When you allow a connection to unfold naturally rather than rushing it towards certainty, you preserve its vitality. Pressure suffocates curiosity. Curiosity keeps attraction. By allowing space for growth instead of demanding guarantees, you protect the dynamic from unnecessary strain. Ultimately, energy is a reflection of internal alignment. If you stay connected to your self-respect, your purpose, and your emotional regulation, the energy that sparked attraction will not fade. It will mature. And when energy is preserved rather than distorted by fear, it continues to draw the other person closer, not through force, but through consistency and quiet strength. Wholeness attracts commitment because it removes the burden of completion from the other person. When you approach love as someone already emotionally grounded, self-aware, and internally stable, you shift the dynamic from need to choice. Commitment feels lighter, safer, and more meaningful when it is not demanded as a remedy for emptiness. People sense when they are being asked to fill a void versus when they are being invited to share a life. A person who feels whole does not cling to connection out of fear. They enjoy companionship, but they do not depend on it to regulate their self-worth. This independence creates emotional security within the relationship. When your happiness does not hinge entirely on someone else, as presence, your interactions become more relaxed and authentic. There is no silent pressure for constant reassurance. There is no urgency to lock the future immediately. Instead, there is steady engagement rooted in mutual desire. Wholeness also reflects emotional maturity. It means you have confronted your insecurities rather than projecting them. It means you are aware of your patterns and actively working on them. When someone observes that you take responsibility for your emotions instead of blaming circumstances or people, trust grows. Commitment requires trust because it involves vulnerability and long-term investment. A whole person signals stability, and stability reduces perceived risk. There is also a subtle power in not over-prioritizing romance above everything else. When you maintain friendships, ambitions, and personal passions, you demonstrate that your life has dimension. You are not seeking a relationship to escape loneliness or boredom. You are inviting someone into an already meaningful existence. This creates respect. It shows that being with you is a privilege, not a rescue mission. Wholeness does not mean perfection. It means integration. It means you accept your strengths and flaws without denial. When you are comfortable acknowledging imperfection, you create an atmosphere where honesty is safe. A partner feels less pressure to pretend. That transparency fosters deeper intimacy. And intimacy, when combined with security, strengthens commitment naturally. Another important element of wholeness is boundary clarity. A whole individual understands their standards and communicates them calmly. They do not compromise core values to avoid conflict. This consistency builds credibility. When your words and actions align, reliability becomes evident. Reliability is foundational to long-term commitment because it reassures the other person that you will remain steady through challenges. Wholeness also reduces jealousy and control. When you are secure in your identity, you do not feel threatened easily. You trust yourself enough to handle uncertainty. This self-trust translates into relational trust. Instead of monitoring, testing, or manipulating for reassurance, you engage openly. That openness creates freedom within the relationship, and freedom paradoxically deepens loyalty. Ultimately, commitment thrives where there is choice, not dependency. When someone feels that you are with them because you genuinely want to be, not because you cannot function alone, it elevates the bond. Your wholeness becomes an anchor rather than a weight. It reassures them that love with you will be a partnership between two complete individuals, not a fusion driven by fear. And from that place of mutual strength, commitment grows naturally and endures. So if you ever question why someone feels so deeply for you, Understand this. It was never about tricks, timing, or chasing. It was about the way you showed up. Your authenticity, your emotional steadiness, your ability to truly see them, your self-respect, your preserved energy, and your inner wholeness. These are not small things. They are rare. Do not abandon these qualities now that the connection has grown. Do not trade your grounded presence for anxiety. Do not replace your calm with overthinking. The same energy that sparked their love is the energy that will sustain it. Love does not deepen because you try harder. It deepens because you remain aligned. Stay centered. Stay self-aware. Stay whole. And if someone is crazy in love with you, let it be because you never stop being the strongest, most authentic version of yourself.